Is this called Shop Talk Podcast?
Shop
It's
Talk.
been so long
This
since
is
we've
season
done...
6 if you haven't been keeping track.
Okay, Curtis and I will now publicly shame ourselves by slapping ourselves on the wrist for not doing more podcasts, meaning I'm going to do it twice, once for me and once for Curtis. Okay, we know we got to do podcasts more.
We do have some stellar ones lined up right now.
So we have been giving it some thought.
Yeah.
What, like when you ask your parents and they say maybe, or we'll give it some thought, like giving it some thoughts one step under, all right, we're ready to roll, right?
But you wait October timeframe,
Boom.
There's going to be some killer podcasts coming up.
Like freaking celebrities and models and stuff like that.
We're trying to get Jimmy Kimmel.
I'm winking so that the podcast listeners can't see it. All right, we have some awesome guests today. And let me just have them introduce themselves. What's your name, sir?
My name, sir, is Nick Yardley. I live over in Vermont, on the other side of the country.
That's the Vermont accent.
That's the Vermont accent you can hear there. And I'm the president of Fulling Mill, which is a large fly distributor throughout the U.S. And as we'll talk about later, we have all sorts of new exciting stuff that we're putting out on the market these days.
And I am Anthony Marrese, and I work at High Peaks Representation, where we sell fishing gear around the country, and Fulling Mill is one of the brands that we work with. I hail from Seattle.
Seattle. Where are you originally from, though, Nick?
I'm originally from Yorkshire, which is usually referred to as the center of the universe.
Oh, yeah.
I came over in '86, and I've been over here ever since. And much as I love the UK, I'm much happier living in the US. You guys are not so bad.
There you go.
It's a great place to be. Fishing's great. People are great. Opportunity is amazing. Wonderful place to be.
Yeah, he always likes to remind everyone his passport says he's an American as the rest of us.
Yes.
Yeah, he is an American as the rest of us. Exactly.
As of 2005, I am an American. I cannot be kicked out of the country.
Yes.
Well,
Wait.
we'll see
yeah.
about that.
Yeah, we don't have to use the government for this one.
We'll
we went to the UK to fish in sort of Nick's stomping grounds, I guess. Ish, yes. Spots that you were familiar with. Now we're returning the favor. We took them on an epic 2-day fishing extravaganza.
And we call it fishing because I went the first day, and then one of us four has a really sore foot and complains about it a lot. So anyway, I didn't go this today. That's what you said.
But we went to the Provo this morning, and these guys can Euro nymph.
Oh, yeah.
And then yesterday, I had escaped the floods of Vermont to come here, and then I brought the rain with me, and we got soaked yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep. So Nick's fault. I'll send you his email later. It's very easy to remember. But no, we wanted to take the time since they're here, and we hang out with these guys a lot. I mean, we've collaborated a ton over the years. But we thought it would be cool to do a podcast to kind of help people understand where Fulling Mill came from, because in the U.S. it's kind of a newer name for us, but it's not a new brand at all.
No, nothing's new in the UK.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's got a long history. The roots of Fulling Mill go back to 1920, where a young man called Dennis Watham had a rugby injury. While at college in the UK, he actually broke his back and was in a wheelchair, and they really couldn't do much. To rehabilitate, he started tying flies, and tying flies was nothing else he could do from his hospital bed. He was taken back eventually in his wheelchair to Africa, where his parents worked on the plantation in Kenya, and kept tying and started actually a little business tying flies for a local fisherman, and then actually brought on 4 tyers and taught them how to tie and started his own business. And the tying helped, and he eventually got out of the wheelchair, even though the doctor said he never would. Actually went into the World War II, became a distinguished soldier, came back to Africa after that, was working on a dairy farm, and then built up the fly tying business as a side business to basically pay the bills. You know, the dairy business wasn't really doing it for him, so he and his new wife did that. They ended up with around 30 tyers. And then around 1969, he was about the ripe old age when he wanted to retire and go back to the homeland. And he sold Fulling Mill for the extortionate price of $20,000 to Brook Bond Tea. And in those days, 25,000 pounds actually was enough to retire on. And he went back to the UK, and Brook Bond know how to grow tea, but they really don't know how to tie flies. And so they were struggling with it, and a gentleman called Andy Unwin had come out of the war, come to Africa after the war, and was a fanatical fly fisherman, and was up in the area where Brook Bond was, kind of knew about this fly tying operation, realized they were having a hard time, and wanted to buy it out, but waited until actually Brook Bond closed it down, and then with Dennis as an advisor, set up Unwin's, which is the name of the factory. So all Fulling Mill flies to this day are still made at the Unwin's factory. So Andy started it, and you know, before long he was exporting flies to something like 30 countries around the world. His son Barry was in Africa with him, and in his early 20s came back to the UK, was looking for something to do, and pretty much on a whim decided he was going to set up a distribution business to distribute flies mainly through the UK, but eventually globally. And he set up Fulling Mill, and everybody goes, Fulling what? Well, Fulling Mill is actually a very famous fishing beat on the River Test, which is an iconic river in the UK. While it means nothing to Americans, it does mean something to Brits. Well, it means something to me. It means something to you.
It doesn't mean anything to me. Yeah. Thanks, Delta. Delta Airlines.
Did you miss the day?
Yeah.
He missed the day.
He missed it
by like
2
hours.
Few
hours.
Oh. 2 hours. He missed
every time we caught a fish. This is for you, Cheech.
Yeah. And so I flew in. I was in the UK 3 days and flew back, and I didn't know my name for a few weeks. I was messed up, and it's their fault.
Sounds like it.
I should have just gone and hung out with you.
Yeah, we would have probably had just as much fun.
We would have had a party, that's for sure. But anyway.
But so where was I? So anyway, in the early 70s, just after a few years, the Brook Bond operation went out of business, and Andy Unwin took on all the tires, and Barry, as I was saying, set up a distribution business in the UK, which was Fulling Mill. And so he was now distributed the flies from his father's operation, Unwin's, through Fulling Mill. And then eventually, as Andy got much older, he bought his father out. So Barry then owned Unwin's and Fulling Mill. And Unwin's was just the factory that makes the flies for Fulling Mill. And mainly Fulling Mill has been distributed throughout Europe and the UK. Barry came over and had some long talks with Orvis and became the prime source for Orvis flies. And that's really why we're set up in New Hampshire as a company, because we're very close to Orvis, and we supply all their stores with flies. And have done for a long time. And so we've actually been in this country for quite a long time. I think it's, I can't quite remember now, but something like 15 to 17 years, but mainly supplying Orvis. About 10 years ago, we really spread out though, and went the normal distribution route to all the dealers within the country. And pretty much if you go into any fly fishing store now, particularly fly fish food, you'll find our flies deep in the bins.
A few of them,
yeah. One or two.
Yeah. And we're very proud of that. And really since then with flies, we've moved into fly boxes, and the big launch for this fall is we've really moved into a broad range of high quality fly tying materials, really based on our need to source the best materials possible for us tying our own flies, cutting out any middleman so we can control quality and price. And so we've just split that up. Some goes to the factory now, some goes to the dealers.
Emphasis on high quality.
Yeah.
So we've been playing with these for a few months now, and they're amazing, but like a very wide range of materials. By the time this podcast comes out, maybe they'll be on our site.
They will. They are on there.
They're on there.
There we go.
And we've been selling through.
Goodness
not
gracious.
Even.
We are just.
Yeah, I know. We're behind the times.
No, we are. No, that's what I'm saying. I'm behind the times. I go to Idaho, and you know how they live in 1985 all the time. You know, they're mad at Utah all the time. Freak. So I come back, and I got a little anger in my heart, and it takes me a while to adjust. So I just don't know what's going on. My bad.
It's all right.
No, but like Fulling Mill, I remember I was fishing a reservoir, and a guy that I know, he's like, hey, have you heard of fulling mill hooks? I'm like, never. He's like, I got a pack, I'll give them to you. And it was like a grab gape, and I'm like, holy crap, these are nice. And shortly thereafter, Curtis and I were ready to kind of bounce from one of the fly companies that we had our flies with because of poor delivery. And we reached out to all the companies that are currently out there and asked them if they would be willing to take on our flies, because Fly Fish Food had started and we had, you know, a pretty good hype around some flies. And Fulling Mill is the only company that said, yeah, we know who you guys are. We've been following it. So yeah, let's do it. And they brought in, like, what was it, like 75 or 90 patterns year one?
Yeah, and within after that it was over 100. So
yeah, so
it was pretty fast.
So, and we just said, hey, what we can do is we can help you build your brand. If we can do that, let's just partner up, and you can have all of our flies. You're helping us out a ton. And then so that's kind of how our relationship started, and it's been nothing but positive since.
Yeah, and from our end as well, it's great working with you guys, and we look forward to working with you with materials as well, and taking any ideas you have on materials and what the market needs and so forth.
There you have it. So
do either of you guys, you're not allowed to answer, know what a fulling mill is? Because it drove me nuts for a while.
It was in a stream. It was a big wheel, and it would mill wheat and flour.
Close, not quite. So when I went over to the UK, when we went and fished the Itchen, which is great, you should try it.
Yeah, maybe.
It's pretty cool. So that was the building, as I understand it, that the distribution came out of. That was like the warehouse there.
Ah, okay.
So the fulling mill part of that is, it needed to be on a river because it was basically just a big barn that you would wash and shear sheep with. So it was a old fulling mill that then was where they kept the flies and everything. So that's why it was on the Itchen, because obviously it's water. So that was the connection on that. It drove me nuts to figure. I was like, where did we come up with
that?
That
was way off. Yeah. What a cracking story, mate.
Yeah. Steve would be proud. He was the one that told me all about it.
Steve. Yeah, if you haven't watched our video fishing in the UK with these guys, I fished with Steve Carew, and he's a fly fishing maniac. Like, I opened his box and they looked like they came out of the bin. They're all just perfect.
Yeah, him and Kieran are kind of really next level.
So, and that's the other thing is, like, everybody that we've met, aside from Dominic, the social media guy, is super, super fishy at the company. You know?
That's very true, yeah.
Poor Dom.
Nick just beats him to the spot, though, is really what it is.
No, but it's been super cool because, like, when we first got our flies in with Fulling Mill, I remember telling people, yeah, we just signed this new contract. It's going to be super cool. It's called Fulling Mill. So they're thinking, they're just going to go with one of these fly-by-night fly companies, and they're dumb because they're going to take their flies out of this other catalog. And now I think we can officially say nanner, like that.
Worked out a little.
Yeah, maybe. But no, it's been awesome. But what else should we talk about here? So how long have you been there, Nick?
So I started Fulling Mill in 2018. Before that, I worked a lot in the outdoor industry. That was my background, and I needed a change. I was going into my final years of a working stiff, and I really wanted to do something that was passionate and that I was passionate about, and so I took the position. And I've had a blast ever since. I mean, I get to go fishing with you guys and call it work.
Oh, yeah.
And lots of other great people around the country. I get to play with flies all the time. I get to go fishing all the time. And, the fishing industry in general is just a really fun place to be. A lot of independent stores with very savvy business owners who really know their demographical, demands. And it's fun watching all these stores meeting what they need to do with their customers and meeting the customers, and you go to a trade show and everybody goes, wow, Fulling Mill, this, that, and the other. And when I first arrived there, it was like Fulling who? Yeah. Now everybody knows who we are, and that's for me, that's very exciting to see that. And we specialize on providing product on time, all the time.
Well, listen to that. That's really important with flies.
But wait, I've got a great idea. Have you ever thought about changing your name to Fulling Trout?
No,
not even in this
I did make a little logo though back. It was maybe like right before Nick started, where we did one that was, so the logo's the Angry Bird, and so we did one that the Angry Bird somehow had some bloodshot eyes, and we changed the name to Fulling Chill.
Fulling Chill.
Yeah, so there's like a little something there.
Happy little bird there.
But Nick's pretty humble though. With he worked in the outdoor industry for a long time. Yada yada.
Yeah,
it's like like.
Yeah,
Nick ran some very important companies in the outdoor industry, and when he came over, we were doing okay without Nick. But we weren't doing great with that.
That's him just saying, "What have you done for me lately, sir?"
No. Like,
no, I feel you.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because flies were generally getting tied on time. Things were showing up mostly when they needed to and how they needed to. And once the search came out for a new president, I know we were all a little bit like, okay, like, what's this gonna do for us, really? And once Nick came on board, from pretty much the first time I talked with him, it was like, oh man, he really knows what's going on. And as soon as he came in, the efficiency, the smoothness of everything, and then like the transparency on important stuff just really went up. And I think he really empowers people to do their job and do it well.
Oh yeah, I mean one thing I've learned, if you got good people, you have to let them do what they do, and you can't micromanage them. You've got to really empower them. And we got very good people working for us.
Speaking of people, I'm going to ask you a yes/no question. Would you ever in this whole world hire Brigham?
Not even if you paid me.
Yes. See that?
Yeah.
We're doing the world a favor by keeping that boy employed.
Helped him out.
All right. Okay. There we go.
Brig, you're great. You're very good. I would hire you in an instant.
See, I paid him to say that too, to make me look good. Anyway. No, but the funny thing is, like, we'd worked with you guys for a few years, and then, all the time companies are having people shuffle in and out. And so, like, we have people come in through the door, and they're like, hey, I'm so-and-so, I'm with this company. So I think, who was it? I think reps were coming through, and you were here, and you came in the shop, and I'm like, okay, what's your name? You're like, oh, I'm Nick, I'm with Fulling Mill. I'm like, all right, cool. So what's your role there? President. I'm like, oh, okay. But he was just, super chill, and so that was funny. He was like, oh, the president. That's Nick right there.
Nick, yeah.
Well, initially everybody thought I was visiting from the home country,
traveling
traveling with the reps because I'm a Brit. But no, I live here. I'm as American as you guys.
Yeah. People were very confused when they'd meet him, and they're like, oh, so you came over. Like, how's your trip been so far? And you're like, well, it's been long. It's been since like 1986. But it's been okay.
Well, we talked to the big boys, Rolly and Rick.
Which are the British owners of the company.
Yeah, the British owners. And we were talking with them, and they were talking about the job search, and they're like, wait a minute, there's a guy from Yorkshire who lives there who wants to run the company. Like, wait a minute. They're like we almost had to check our eyes. Anyway.
Yeah, that was pretty it was pretty entertaining at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I would say, Nick had mentioned working in the outdoor industry. I think one of our things when we started to get into higher volumes on our website was, so my background is inventory management and that sort of thing. So just-in-time inventory is a big deal for us. And Fulling Mill was really, at least on the fly side, the only one that could do just-in-time on flies, which is a huge, huge thing.
Yeah, insane.
It's becoming a little bit more commonplace now.
Yeah.
I would say maybe large part to do to you guys and your approach, which is phenomenal, to be able to order hoppers in the summer and get hoppers in the summer and not have to order them in February, or not even February, November of the previous year.
Yep.
So that's been killer.
Yeah, we built it up pretty much on that.
Yeah.
I mean, when I first started with Fulling Mill, we were really small. We didn't really have a whole lot going on, and we do now, but that was pretty much most of the time, you guys notwithstanding, because you were tires for us, but basically just daring people to be like, well, when you run out of Parachute Adams in July, or when you need some other kind of hopper in August, remember me.
Yeah.
And then we'd get an order, and it'd be a few $100s and go out complete.
And that's one thing I think. With Fulling Mill, like we're talking about, these are industry things, why we like you guys and why you like us. But the end user, what you need to know is like the quality of these flies that we get from Fulling Mill. Like the Mousy McMouseface, for example, blew my mind because I sent it to them. I didn't send a recipe or anything. I don't even know if there was a video done yet. And I get this box delivered to me, and they were perfect. And I'm like, holy crap, who did these? Because I looked at them like, I don't remember putting these in this box. Yeah. I'm like, oh, wait, I didn't tie these.
Yeah.
So
I think I remember that. It was like right before the Denver show one year, right?
Yeah, so like the quality's there. We've been playing with these new materials, and like a lot of the frustrations, like who gets frustrated dubbing ice dub and wish it was finer, or rabbit strips are all curled up and twisted. That's not going to happen. But the biggest thing, straight span flex, no curl. That's what I'm.
That's some voodoo magic right there.
Yeah. So, but I mean, they have everything from like crazy Euro nymphs, the very specialized for Stillwater or rivers or whatever, to slotted beads, to tungsten jig bodies, to regular hooks. I mean, it's awesome seeing you guys grow on our end too, because everything that we've gotten from you has been solid. Like the baby fat minnow Bonio carp hook, thing's money.
Yeah.
So you guys are continuing to come out
a little bit off guard on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's use a carp hook for a streamer.
Yeah.
We weren't ready for that.
Yeah.
Well, Eric called me when we released the baby fat minnow. It took off way more than we thought, and we had like 50 packs of the Bonio carp hook, right?
Yeah.
And so I ordered like 55 more, and Eric calls. He's like, "Hey man, did you mean to say 55 or just 5?" I'm like, "No, 55. In fact, how many do you have?" He's like,
54.
We have 85 of them, but one of them's taken for another shop. I'm like, okay, I'll take 84. But anyway, that's kind of how we got started, selling the fulling mill materials or hooks back then. Yeah. But anyway, nowadays, like even up in the Idaho store, like everybody knows who fulling mill is. It's just a normal brand.
Yeah, and for me, my job is going around and hanging out with dealers and seeing dealers and selling dealers products and so forth, but it's so great because I get to hang out with people like you, the greatest, the best people in the industry all across the country, and call it work, learn from them, learn what works in their territory, what doesn't work, what they need, what they don't need, what's important, and then go fishing. And it's just amazing. And you've got to do the fishing because that's what we do.
Yeah.
And it's an important part of it, and it's a wonderful part of the job. And the people within this industry that own those stores that are selling you your flies and your rods and things, we're very blessed in America to have such talented and passionate people. I think it's definitely not like that all over the world, in my opinion.
Yeah. So that's good. I mean, a lot of times you hear about like how bad social media has been for fishing, but like if you look at the creativity that's been spurred by just everybody sharing their flies for free, it's huge. I think that's a big part of it. But yeah, it's all about like a big collaboration. We talk about that all the time. Like I'm never going to talk trash on another fly shop. They're doing the same exact thing we're trying to do, and
exactly.
It's a lot of respect there.
And on the social media aspect, there's negativity to that, but there's so much passion and excitement out there. Yeah. That's all been at least telegraphed and driven by that. And we're also very lucky in America that we have a lot of young people coming into it, both men and women, or girls and boys. And then you go to a country like the UK, where much as I love those Brits, my home people, it's a passion that's dying. There's not a lot of young people coming into it, and over here we're in an incredible fun time to be fishing. I mean, everybody I fish with is mostly half my age, except for you two.
I didn't know you were 92, Nick. Goodness gracious, you're getting along great.
And it's so invigorating going fishing with young people who are passionate and look at things in different ways. I mean, it's just makes it fun to go out there.
That's a really good outlook to have, because we always tell people, we tie flies not to show you the only way to do something, but we just want to give you ideas.
Yeah, exactly.
You can tie it exactly how I tied it, fine. I know that one works, but feel free, mess with it.
Yeah, I mean, it's the ultimate expression of creativism. It's fly tying, and you just mess with the parachute atoms and you can come up with 20 different great flies.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
It's been pretty remarkable to see the social media, particularly in fly tying. It's like there's...
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily matter now if you've been tying flies for 20 years or 2 years. I mean, there's some people that have been tying flies for 6 months, and the access to information that they have, if they're talented enough at it and creative, they'll put some stuff up where you're like,
oh yeah,
man, it took me a long time to be able to tie something like that, and you're doing it in 6 months.
Yeah, for sure.
Pretty impressive.
Yeah, there's so much information out there, so many materials. Stuff's a lot easier to get.
I mean, on that point, I mean, remember something George Daniels said in one of his little videos where back in the day you used to hoard material. If you found a certain chenille or dubbing, you would hoard it because it was special for that fly. And now you just buy a 1 ounce packet because even if it runs out, there's going to be something better around the corner, so there's no point in hoarding anything.
Yeah.
Unless you want to tie comparadents, then you hoard coastal deer.
There's apparently the coastal deer didn't make it through the winter or something like that because it doesn't exist anymore.
They're there.
They're there.
We saw them.
So Anthony, what states do you cover?
So I have a really awesome set of states that I get to cover.
Okay.
So I get to cover what's considered the Southern Rockies, which is Colorado, Utah, and New Mexico. Cool. Then I also get to cover the Pacific Northwest, which would be Oregon, Washington, and Alaska.
So a little bit of fly sales going on in there. 1
or 2 find their way out the door every year. Yeah.
So, tell us about like when you first started trying to getting in with these shops as a fulling mill rep versus what you do now.
Yeah, so I came around to fulling mill. It was 2016 when fulling mill hired me, or maybe late 2000. It was late 2015. I think. And yeah, I would drive around, and literally what I do as a rep is, in terms of physically what I do, we need to travel around, go to every store, develop a relationship with, it's primarily the shop owner, but some stores have specific buyers, and then it's, but whoever is important there to get orders written. When I first started with fulling mill, I don't think anybody had heard of fulling mill at all. Not one shop, I don't think. And I said, hey, we're a fly company, and for the most part, everyone was like, well, we pretty much work with XX and so, and we really don't have a lot of room in the fly bins. And I was like, okay, well, there's a couple of really compelling reasons to work with fulling mill, and delivery was what we really just based everything on. Delivery and no minimum. You could order a dozen flies if you wanted to, and it didn't matter if it was in November for a August ship date or if it was in August for an August ship date, you know what I mean? And so we built that up over the course of a number of years, and fast forwarding to today, there's really not a lot of shops that we aren't in anymore.
That's cool.
There's really, as we're sitting here right now, I can't really come up with that many that we're still like, we need to get in there. So now it's, managing just how people want to order. There's still a number of shops that don't really want to write pre-seasons, and that's okay with fulling mill. It doesn't matter. But those that do, we certainly support that, and we'll make sure that you get your hoppers in August and go from there. So now it's just relationship management, which has been really fun to see. Yeah,
because like when we were first signed on year one, like we would go, I went with the rep, and we would go and meet with the shops because I was like, okay, here's where my flies are, and they're like, oh, okay. But it's funny because like they still were met with some resistance after the flies and everything. So, but now, I mean, I go into shops quite a bit, and you can't find one that doesn't have like Duracells,
Yeah.
Well, I mean, some of the funnest emails I get are from, a European tire with somebody like Lubos, who comes across to the UK on holiday with his wife. This is the couple holiday. They are not allowed to fish. No fishing's allowed, but he is allowed to go into a fishing shop. And he can go into the fishing shop, and there are all his flies in the bins. And that just
that's
makes
Luos Rosa. Rosa. So his flies are like the Rosa's violet tail, and
he's got some really good
tons of really good flies. We've done some of his videos.
And we actually have we have his videos up on the YouTube at the moment.
Cool.
Some nice ones about that, but. For me going around now, all the stores, everybody knows who's fulling mill is. I get a great welcome when I go into stores. It's just really fun walking into a store and going, hey, good to see you again. And we just have a blast wherever we are. And, we have to do our end. We have to provide a good product on time at a fair price. But if we can do that, we can help everybody out in the industry.
Yeah. A lot of people come in and say, hey, what type of machines are used to tie this?
Yeah, or do you guys tie all your own flies?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So I appreciate the fact that you think I'm a machine.
I have a black hole back in the back, and it allows me to time travel.
So, and then the other thing is like, and I admittedly even would mess with the Kenyans that would try to sell me junk flies in the past, because there are some scammers. But
plenty, yeah.
The story like that you just told about Kenya, like fast forward today, the factories in Kenya are like, they're pretty dang nice. So maybe fill us in on that.
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, the computer system we use, everything is from sourcing the raw material to tying the flies, doing the work orders for the flies, to bring it into the US, to shipping it to Fly Fish Food. It's all one system, so we can adjust everything no matter what the season's doing, and that's why we can provide such good deliverability. And the other big thing is that we control the whole system through, and everybody's a fully mill employee. So in Africa, we have Unwins, which is the factory which produces the flies. We have about 225 employees there. They're all employees of Fulling Mill. They all have an excellent healthcare program. They all have a retirement program, which is quite aggressive, far above and beyond anything that's traditionally seen in Africa. It's actually not down in some big flat deserty area that people would think of in Africa. Kericho, where we're based, is up in the tea plantation, so it's about 6,000 feet. So you know, in the summer you'll get the big afternoon monsoon comes down, but it's a pleasant temperature to be at. And if you go into the tying bays where they tie the flies, it's just an amazing atmosphere. Most people who, or the average employee length of time so far is about 15 years. So the average employee has worked there for 15 years. It's split pretty much 50-50 men and women. And these people are just absolutely experts. I mean, when Eric, who's our technical manager, takes samples over to Africa, he has a couple of particular tires that he gives the samples to, and they knock up the first range of samples, and they just come out with almost perfect. First time round, never seen the things before, never seen a little video on the technique. It's absolutely mind-blowing to watch. And you walk around, and they want to hear about how, well, who's buying our flies? Do people like our flies? You know, they're just so excited.
They're
to hear
like
about.
Invested in it.
Yeah,
they're
totally
real
invested.
people. Yeah, it's so cool.
Totally invested in where the flies are going, who's buying them, and they don't fish. I mean, you know, these people don't fish, but they just love hearing about it. So for me, it's great to go over, and when I go over, I spend 2 days just walking around the tying bays and just talking to people and showing them pictures of Fly Fish Food and where the flies go and who buys the flies and who was the designer who did this fly, and everybody just, you know, really invested and loves it. This last year we added another huge building to the complex, and that's our tying area, which has all the dye, which is all the natural dye, no harsh chemicals in there, so it's very safe for those people that are doing the dyeing, and very safe for those tyers that do lick their fingers when they're doing their marabou on there.
Never done it.
Nope, never done it. And so that's where we deal with all the raw materials and package it up and get it all ready, and that's a big new facility, and so it's very exciting. So it's an excellent team, right from the Brits who run the operation, right to the factory that's over in Kenya, right to us Americans over here in the US, and it's a really fun system to be part of and know that we basically control everything within the system. We're all the same team, we're all employed by the same employer. It's fun, it's great.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is like, I've explained that to people before, and they're just like, wait, I didn't know it was like that. So it's pretty eye-opening.
Yeah, and it's not like, hey, somebody just decided, let's pick the cheapest place in the world to get labor and go exploit them. This is like from a long time ago, and has built up a business that these people just love to be a part of. Yeah. And they're great. I mean, we'll send new patterns over there, and they'll come back just at the first pass factory samples, and it's like, well, these are better than mine, so happy day.
The nickname for the factory there is like the university, where, you know, the tying school and everything like that they go through. It's
But, I mean, I come from an HR background. To have an average of 15 years at a place, that's unheard of. Like, that's insane. So, you know, they must be happy and treated well there. So
yeah, happy, talented, and
very talented. Yeah,
very
it's a fun place to be. A lot of music in the loading bays, a lot of laughter, and then the quality is the other thing they have to remember that's so important. We have the ability, because we own everything from sourcing raw material to putting it on the loading dock. We really have the ability to QC everything at a variety of stages, and we put out millions of flies, and we get back the number of flies I get back. I can count on one hand, and probably still have a couple of things left. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I think
everything from the hooks and materials to the quality. I
think I've only ever gotten, and I work with a lot of shops, maybe 24 since 2016.
Were they chimeras?
They weren't chimeras.
I'll give you $50 if you say they were.
All right, they were chimeras, every one of them. Now they were. I remember them because there was only a couple dozen. It was French jigs and
Oh, really?
They were like maybe, but we took them back and replaced them.
And we have a 200% guarantee. So basically, if you have an issue with a fly, we send you 2 flies back, and we don't use that guarantee much. We don't get nailed on that very much at all.
Then you should make it 10.
Yeah, we're gonna try to make it so that you can use your one. No, we've been super stoked on all the fulling mill stuff, like everything from the tippet to the boxes to the flies, and of course having the flies in the catalog is a pretty cool feather in our cap as well. Mm-hmm. Just to be able to be part of the fulling mill. But to me, fulling mill is just synonymous with a company who is going to do multiple checks and balances before something ends up on a shelf.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Like we were talking about a fly box in the UK, and we found one little thing that we were talking about, and it turned into like an hour-long conversation about how to fix a tiny little thing that really didn't matter that much. But just that level of care is really what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to have a good product, and you got to have good customer service. But both just go. You can't do one without the other. You got to have both.
Exactly.
Yeah, that was pretty funny when the fly boxes came out, because I don't think. Well, at least I didn't know that Nick was going to do the boxes.
Oh yeah.
So when they told us, we're going to do a fulling mill line of boxes, we were all kind of like, okay, great. This is, what are they going to be like? And then, Nick's like, well, this is what we're thinking, and this is how we're going to do it. And I mean, he went through all of the boxes on the market, figured out what was good about them, what was bad about them.
Yeah.
Figured out how to get the materials, figured out how to make them, what to make them out of, how big to make them, how thick to make them.
Yeah.
And once we got them, we're like, you guys are gonna make fly boxes, not you're just gonna put your logo on them.
Like, so it's made in the UK, right?
It's made in the UK. Yeah. We own the molds. We designed the mold. We went through. Molds are very expensive.
Oh
and we went through a lot of mold tweaks in the process. We own the molds. Those boxes are made in the UK. We're very proud of them. We sell a lot of them, and they hold up really well, and they're a great product.
Yeah, and to kind of paint a picture for those of you who are listening, I'd highly recommend looking at the fulling mill boxes that we have on our site. But they're super lightweight. They're magnetic closure with slotted foam with all different types of capacities. There's one that I like a lot. It's got a flip page in between it. They call it the Tactical Max.
Tactical Max, yeah.
The Tactical Max box, and you can
Super Euro box.
Yeah, so I'm like,
it'll weigh 12 pounds when you're done.
So I took one,
it's a brick,
and I'm like, I'm going to fill this up. It's going to look so cool. And I worked on it for like 2 months and got one page. I'm like, screw this.
Yeah, ridiculous.
So, but no, super cool products. Obviously it's been fun watching you guys grow. But yeah, if you go to their website, you'll see their full collection of flies. If you go to our website, you'll see a lot of their flies in our site. Mm-hmm. And if your fly shop doesn't have them, tell them to get on board. You want that fulling mill good stuff.
The good
right?
stuff.
And if you want them next week, we've got them in stock, so just let them know.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
Materials too.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, good. Yeah. I think we've gone a full 40 minutes. So for all those people that were a little upset we haven't done one in a while, we apologize. We're back on this wagon, in the saddle.
This wagon is run by Toyota, so it breaks down a lot.
Oh,
so I had to say it right at the end, guys.
Yeah, well,
Even if it's
better here than where we were going to go because there would be no road there.
Exactly. I had to say it in a safe space. So now if you guys retaliate, all these people just heard me say it.
I think most of the people out there would probably be okay if we retaliated.
Well,
you know, I mean, it's you go out there, it's like 10-1 Toyotas, man,
and they're all working.
And they all work. That's right.
The problem with that is
there is no problem with that.
You have to drive one.
That's the luxury of it.
Yeah, I mean, they work. You know, you get to sit in a Ford, you get to drive a Toyota.
I mean, I think in Colorado, if you don't have a Toyota, you can't actually go fishing.
Well,
That's
you can't put the Colorado native sticker that you put on after you move there for 6 months.
That's true. We did when we moved there. We did have to sign the contract about Toyota. We had to.
Yeah, got to get a Toyota.
Yeah.
The Yoda gang. Yeah. No, I would have got a Toyota. Squatch just won't get in them.
All right. Well, I mean,
she's got a lot better judgment than me. So, anyway, thanks, boys, for coming along.
Stay tuned for next time, which we might be talking about our new Jimmy's thing. We may have some other people invited over. There's a lot of things you guys need to catch up.
Yeah,
we need to catch
models,
people up on.
I heard.
Oh well, it could be that
at the beginning. So.
Well, I am a model.
That's model
true.
RC.
Yeah. There you go.
That's it.
All right, that's it. It's a wrap.